Hey all, welcome back to Art Club. We are going to continue learning about tints, tones, shades, and hues with yet another mountainous project. This time, however, instead of looking at the mountains from a side view, like we do as humans because we're standing on the ground, we're going to pretend we're a bird flying through the sky over the top of the mountain range and looking at the mountain from the top down, what we call a bird's eye view. So that is what we're going to get set up for today. If you haven't already, do make sure that you're setting up your art space, sort of like I have set up here, because we're painting, so it could get messy. Smocks on, or whatever you do to make sure you're protecting your outfits. And here we go. I've got a new sheet of paper out here. I've also got my white and my black paint. I've chosen a paint color that I like for this project. I've got my paintbrush over on the side here along with water to clean it in between. And I want to also make sure that I've got my value and art worksheet out just to help me remember what these terms are and how to make them. All right, so we're going to do bird's eye view. It would be helpful for this project, though not necessary, to use some sort of a straight edge. I'm going to be using a ruler, but you could also use the edge of a piece of paper or a folder, notebook, whatever you've got, okay? So our first step is going to be to draw a triangle. Now, we don't want to draw just a typical triangle like that, an equilateral triangle. We're going for something bigger and with edges that are varying in sizes and angles. So check this out. Maybe my first one goes kind of like that. Maybe my next one, let's see, I'm going to turn my paper here, goes something like, gotta get it to line up there. It's being tricky. Maybe my next edge of my triangle goes over here like that. And maybe my last one, I'm going to actually change the angle just ever so slightly to shorten that. Maybe I'll go like this. So every single edge of that triangle is a different length and a different angle. Okay? So you're probably thinking, doesn't look like much of a mountain right now, mountaintop right now. So how are we going to fix that? Well, we're going to take our pencil, this side, and go do, 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 boop. And I want you to find a spot somewhere kind of in the middle, like we wouldn't want it over towards an edge too far. Somewhere in this middle-ish area of your triangle, and make a mark there. We are then going to connect this dot to each of the three corners. So here we go, connecting the dot to this corner. And again, connecting the dot to this corner. And finally, connecting the dot to this corner. There we go. You might still be thinking, I'm not seeing mountaintop. This is where our painting comes into play, you guys. So for today, I have chosen this beautiful light pink color, but you go ahead and choose whichever color you like. I always like to start off with our lightest of the colors first and work my way up to the darkest of the colors. So between these three triangles, in one of them we're going to use our tint, one we're going to use our tone, and one we're going to use the shade. What about hue, you're wondering? Where we're just using the color straight out of the tube? Well, we're going to save that for the background. All right, so starting off with our lightest of the three, which is, of course, the tint. And between our white and the color you've chosen, the white is going to be the weaker of the two, right? Hopefully, as we're going through our practices this week, we're getting more and more familiar with this. So I'm going to put the white in there first. There it is. And then the stronger of the two colors, I always only want to put in a little bit. Just a dab will do. So here we go. Boop. See how much of a size difference? It's like maybe that's about a quarter or a third to one. So that's what I went with there. We'll see how that turns out. Get my paintbrush nice and clean, and let's mix it on up. See what a beautiful tint of that pink we end up with here. Lovely. Yes, it is. All right, so then with that tint, I am going to go ahead and paint one of the 3 triangles within my bigger triangle. And it doesn't matter which of the 3 you choose, okay? Because all of them are touching each other, right? No matter where I put my tint, it's still going to be touching my tone and my shade on one side or the other. And no matter where I put my tone or my shade, once again, they're always going to be touching one of the other 2 on one of its 2 edges. So you can pick any of the triangles you want for this. There we go. I'm going to go kind of quickly here, but if you want to pause the video and take a little bit more time, you most definitely can and should. There we go. All right, so now I've got the tint painted on there. There it is. I'm gonna let that dry a bit as I wash off my paintbrush on the side. Now I like to go once again from lightest to darkest. So between tone and shade, what one's gonna be the next in line? Well, tone uses gray and shade uses black, so probably the tone, right? So in order to make our gray, we gotta mix our white and our black first, always with the lighter color first. So there's my white, and I already have from earlier a little dab of black here, and I know I just need the tiniest amount to change that white to gray. It's like probably a 10-to-1 ratio, you guys, and yet look at how quickly it changes the color. Oh my goodness, but that is a beautiful looking gray. I'm gonna just mix it up really well, like so. There we go. And of course, now that I've got my gray, I need to add my color to it. Usually when I'm mixing gray with a color, I do tend to go about half and half. So, you know, I'm just eyeballing it, definitely not measuring or weighing it to make sure it's exact. Just kind of like, okay, that looks like it's about the same amount of my color to the gray, and then mix that all up as well. Here we go. This one always makes the most because we have to mix twice. So it always makes quite a bit. So since I know this one makes a lot, I'm going to choose the other biggest area. But once again, doesn't really matter because they're all going to have an edge touching each other no matter what you do. So there are three sections of our triangle, and each of those sections has 2 edges, so for sure they're all going to be touching each other in one way or another. Once again, if you need to pause the video at any point so you can spend a little bit more time with yours, you feel free to do so. I'm just going to go quickly here so the video doesn't take too long. All right, almost done with my tone. It's really hard to get into some of these tiny little corners, but don't be afraid if you need to. Go outside of the line because we are going to be coming back with the hue to do the outline. So I can always paint over this section here where it got a little too wide. I can paint back over that with the hue once it's dry. All right. Last but certainly not least, we're going to go with our darkest color, which is of course our shade. So between the color that you've chosen and the black is always going to be the stronger, which means we need to start with our color first. So here is my color. Put just a little bit because I can see I only have a tiny amount to paint here, so I don't need too much. And I'm going to add the tiniest tiniest bit of black to it. Let's see, do I have any black that's still activated? Yes, I do. Okay, so a tiny bit of black to it. And there we go. It is going to make this beautiful mauve color here. Of course, all of our colors are going to be different depending on what you chose. So here's mine. And we're going to paint in this last section. Once again, take your time. Don't feel like you need to rush as fast as I'm doing mine. And you can always pause if you need to, or rewind, whatever works best for your learning pace. And once again, don't worry if you have to go outside, especially on those corners. They get really tight. So if you have to go outside the line a little bit at those corners, it's okay, because we will be going through and doing the backdrop with the hue. So you'll always get a chance to kind of touch those areas up if need be. Oh my goodness, this is looking beautiful, isn't it? So now, as you can imagine, if we were a bird flying over the mountains, it would be sort of as if this is where the sun was hitting, right? Maybe it's the sun rising over here and the sun's hitting, and then you can see the shadows of the mountain on the other side of the peak, right? So here's what we've got going on. Now, I am going to give you guys the option for an extension. Okay, so if you're like, this was fun, I really liked doing that. Something you could do is actually make even more of them. And then it would look like there's a whole bunch of mountains in your mountain range. Now, obviously, for our art club time, we really don't have time to do a ton of them during one art club. But you could definitely spend some time outside to get this done if you wanted to add to it. Otherwise, if you're happy with your one mountain, I'm going to switch over to this one that I did earlier that's a little bit more dry. Your last step then is going to be to paint the background with just the hue. So as it is straight out of the tube. And I want you to notice, see how my edge? Do you see how that's not looking very crisp there? So what I can do now that I'm coming back with my original hue for the background, I can clean up some of those edges if I need to. So here's my paint as it came straight out of the tube, and I can take and kind of clean up those lines a little bit. And you might need to go over some of the spots with, you know, a layer or two. But go ahead then and paint in your full background. So you've got all four, you've got within your mountain, you've got the tint, the tone, and the shade, and then your background, you've got that beautiful hue that you've chosen for today's project. Cannot wait to see how these turn out. Don't forget, whenever you are done, to pop on in to our Hall of Frame and to claim your frame by putting on your name. You can see we've got some beautiful ones in here already. Look at them coming in. So beautiful. So you'd put your name down at the bottom and simply go to Insert Image and take a picture with your Chromebook camera. There are other ways to do this as well, but that one seems to be the easiest way to do it. I can't wait to see how these turn out, you guys. We'll see you next time.